couple of things. One change maybe from last try is, I think I told you guys first try that they're trying to get us to cut down our copies. So sometimes I make copies, but not very much at all. Like today, remind me there's a worksheet for today, but the rest of the chapter there's not. So if you're ever at home, you check Schoology, it would have the worksheet there. You just open it up and say that it was called Section 8-2 Worksheet Day 1. Just put that on the top and then just do the assignment and then turn it in. So most of the time, it's just gonna be linked on Schoology, okay? Again, just a reminder, my homework is out of 10. Like today, you have to have work showing. If you just gave me the answers, you might get maybe 1 or 2 points, okay, out of 10. So again, on the top, if today's thing was on, in Schoology, whatever I name it, just put that on top of your page, okay? Let's see. If it's a book assignment, please put like page number 100, numbers 1 through 7, 5, or whatever the numbers are. During work time, if you want to work with somebody, I will let that as long as you guys are working. So that's a privilege. So if you guys can handle that, you can move and work together. But if you can't, then I would ask you to not do that. I don't know if I had the pencils over there, but then the sharpener is right behind Noah there. And then I tried to put Kleenex around the room, kind of. The calculators are still up here, actually. Calculators here. And then I do have some graphing ones too that I have that you could use during the hour if you need one. Make sure you're here on time. If you have to go to the bathroom, at least let someone in the room know, or wait till I get back. A lot of times I go to the bathroom in between hours, so if I'm not in here, just wait till I get back or tell somebody to tell me. And then again, at the end of the hour, if you leave early, then I'd give you a detention. So I know some of you have a lunch after this, but no leaving early at all. Okay? All right. So today what we're gonna do is we're gonna start a chapter that's on proportions. And the reason we're doing this is the entire chapter 7 is on something called similar triangles that needs you to know how to solve proportions. So these are the hardest type of proportions that you have to do. So today we're going to be factoring to solve these. Some of you may have factored before and be really good at it, but if not, hopefully by the time we're going to go through 6 examples today, and hopefully by that time you'll know how to do it. Okay? All right. So back when you guys learned how to solve proportions, you learned it using cross products. So what you're gonna do is multiply these two. So we're gonna go x times x plus 10 and put that in parentheses equals, and then we're gonna multiply those two. Negative 21 times 1 is negative 21, okay? Now, what we would do here is distribute. So x times x is x squared. X times 10 is 10x. And then in these problems, we want this negative 21 to go to the other side, because when you have an x squared, an x, and a number, that tells you that you have to factor it. And you want everything on the same side of the equation, and you want it set equal to 0. So do you guys get if I brought a negative 21 over to the left, it would become plus 21, and then that would equal 0. So when you bring it from the left to the right, you're just going to change its sign. Now, depending on who you guys had last year that taught you factoring, there's different ways to teach it. A lot of times for students that are beginning to factor, we use a box and this chart. If you know a way to factor without the box and the chart, you don't have to use it. But today you would have to show me the work that I do over here. If you're a beginning factorer, then I would use the box and the chart at first, okay? So what we're gonna do is that x squared is always gonna go in the top left box, okay? This number right here with the sign in front of it is gonna go right here. And if it's positive, you can just write 21, but if it was negative or subtract 21, this would be negative 21. This number also goes up here, and then the number in the middle right here, again with the sign, goes right here. And that's a positive 10, so you can just write 10, okay? Now what we're gonna do is to factor it, we need to know two numbers that multiply to give us 21, and when I add them, it gives me 10. So I'll just give you an example. 1 times 21 is 21, but 1 plus 21 is not 10. Can you guys think of what it would be? What would it be? 7 and 3. 7 times 3 is 21. 7 plus 3 is 10. Okay? So now what you're going to do is go back to this box, and you're going to put 7 and 3 in either spot. It doesn't matter where you put what, but here's something that you have to remember. When you put it in the box, you're going to put an X with, oh, this should be 3. You're going to put an X with it. So this is 3X. Okay? Then what we're going to do is figure out what could I put here and here that when I multiply it gives me X squared. And that's always going to be X times X. Okay? Now you're going to think, what times X gives me 7? And that's 7, okay? And then X times what would give me 3X, and that's 3, okay? Then this last box right here, you can check if you did it right, because 7 times 3 should give you 21, bless you. Now, the one thing that you have to go back in and add, if this number is positive, you're going to put a plus there. If it was negative 7, you would think of this as X minus 7. There's no sign here, so I put a plus there also. Then what I do is I come down here, and what factoring is, when you have something that has 3 terms like this, it's factoring trinomials. And when you factor a trinomial, you're always going to get 2 binomials, which means 2 things with 2 terms. One of them is going to be this right here, x plus 7. And the other one is going to be this right here. And that goes right here. Okay, now you're almost done. The last thing that we have to do is say what x is. Now the long way of doing this is you would set x plus 7 equal to 0, and you would solve it. And then you would set x plus 3 equal to 0 and solve that, okay? When I do this, and I solve this, here I'm just gonna subtract 7, and I would get x equals a negative 7. Here I would subtract 3, and I would get x equals a negative 3. Okay? Now, do you guys notice something that's true between this plus 7 and this? Didn't it change its sign, right? And this was plus 3, and it became minus 3. So to save time, you can go directly from this step down to here, and all you would do is change the signs on both of those, okay? So you don't have to show this work if you know, that's fine, just skipping that step. So, again, some of you might be sophomores, had Mr. Check, did a lot of factoring, even though he probably didn't show, are any of you sophomores? I don't think he showed it this way, did he? Maya, do you remember learning this with him? Huh?
I don't remember.
Okay, but anyway, some of you may be good at factoring and not need this method. Others are gonna need that method. If you need it, put it, but I absolutely need to see this. I don't need to see these 2 green steps here, but then I would need, this is your actual answer. Oh. This is an answer, as well as that is an answer, okay? Now, let's go to number 2. And again, this one's gonna be similar to the last one that we did. We're gonna do cross products, and it's gonna be x times x minus 3 equals 14 times 2, okay? We are going to distribute this. And when we do that, x times x is x squared, minus x times 3 is 3x. Now, if you can do this in your head, isn't this 28? And when I brought it to the other side, wouldn't it become minus 28 equals 0? If you can't do that in your head, you could do equals 28 and then write it and bring that 28 over. To factor something, it has to equal 0. Okay? Now, do you guys remember what goes in this box? This is your x squared. Do you remember what goes here? The negative 28, which also goes here. And then because the 3 has a minus in front of it, that goes here as minus 3. So if it's subtraction in the problem, you put negatives in front, okay? Now, when you have a negative number, what you're gonna do is have a positive number times a negative number. And I'll give you a hint. If what you want them to add up to is negative, that means your bigger factor is going to be negative, okay? So I'll give you an example. 14 times 2 is going to be positive 28. We want it to be negative 28. Because this is negative, I would put my negative with a bigger one. But when I go negative 14 plus 2, that does not give me a negative 3, so that tells me that doesn't work. Can you guys think of what would work? Negative 7 times 4, very good. Negative 7 plus 4 is a negative 3. So then what I would do is come back to this. I have to put a negative 7 in one of these 2 boxes, and I put an X with it. And then I put a 4 in one of these boxes and put an X with it. Okay, doesn't matter which one goes in which box there. Now, when this is x squared, this is always x times x. If this is negative 7x, you think what times x gives you negative 7x? So it's minus 7. And then x times what is 4x? That's going to be 4. And you can always check, is negative 7 times 4 negative 28? And it is. So this is one of my factors. What would I have to put between this? A plus. Okay. Now I'm going to come down here and put those in parentheses. One is x minus 7. One is x plus 4. By the way, it does not matter which one you write first and which one you write second. And then, did you guys understand like how to skip the work for this? You just take the opposite of this. So if that's minus 7, it's 7. This is plus 4, it's negative 4. So this is our answer. Okay. Now this next one is a little bit different in that when I multiply, I have two things that are binomials. So one is x plus 3 and one is x plus 2. Okay? Then 1 times 2 is going to be 2, and that would be how you set it up. Now, do you guys remember from Algebra 1 doing something called FOIL? FOIL stood for first, outside, inside, and last. Okay? Now when I go to do that, what they mean by first is you take the first thing here times the first thing there. X times x is x squared. Okay? Then I have to do the outside ones. That's this times that. The outside 2, and it's a positive 2 times x, so it'd be plus 2x. So you do look at this sign in front. I is inside, that means these two. Plus 3 times x is just plus 3x. And then the last one, L is last. That means the last thing of the first parentheses times the last thing of the second parentheses. Positive 3 times a positive 2 is plus 6. Now, I right away bring the 2 over because I know I eventually want it over. And do you guys get if it's positive 2 and I bring it over, it's going to be minus 2 equals 0. Okay? Now, what I can do is go in and combine like terms. And plus 2x plus 3x is plus 5x. 6 minus 2 is 4, and that equals 0. Okay? Now again, if you need to use this chart, certainly do that. The x squared goes here. The positive 4 goes here and here. And then the positive 5 goes here. When that 5 is positive, that actually means they're both going to be positive or they're both going to be negative. But in this case, all of them have plus signs, so they're going to be positive. So what's a positive number times a positive number? That gives me 4. And then when I add them, I get 5. 1 and 4 is correct. So 1 times 4 is 4. 1 plus 4 is 5. So I'm going to put a 1x in one of the boxes and a 4x in the other box. Then for x squared, I think what times what gives me x squared? That's x times x. What times x gives me 1x? That's 1. X times what gives me 4x? That's 4. And 1 times 4 is 4. Then I put pluses in between. each of these, and these are my factors. They're not my answers yet, but they are my factors. So 1 is x plus 1, and 1 is x plus 4. And then when you go to do that last step, you get, this would be a -1, and the other one would be a -4. Okay? I always get asked by students, like, when you put the answer, like, on the blank for the quiz, do I have to do x equals -1 and x equals -4? And you really don't. You could just write -1 and -4, and that would be fine. Okay? One more thing. When you do this amount of algebra, chances are, at least one time, you're gonna make a mistake somewhere. So if you get over here and you cannot find a factor, what that should tell you then is that you are going to have to go back here and check your work, because chances are you did something wrong here. I just remembered, guys, that we were supposed to pick up books. Let me check when that was supposed to be. Today's Thursday, right? We were supposed to at 11:05. Let's just go when I'm done, and then hopefully that won't be a problem. Okay, just remind me. All right, so let's go. We have 3 more. So here, we're gonna multiply those 2. We have x plus 3 times x minus 2 equals 3 times 8, which is 24. Now, again, we have to do FOIL. F is first, O is outside, I is inside, and L is last. Okay, so first is gonna be x times x. X times x is x squared. O is outside, which is x times a -2. X times a -2, whoops, is actually gonna be a -2x. Inside is a positive 3 times x, which is plus 3x. And last is 3 times a -2, which is -6. Now with that 24, that is gonna come over here, right? When I bring that over, it's gonna be -24 equals 0. Now I'm gonna combine like terms. A -2x plus 3x is plus 1x. -6 minus 24 is -30, and that equals 0. Okay? Now when you're thinking about numbers here, always know that there's a 1 in front of that x, even if it's not written there. So now if I come over here, my x squared goes here, my -30 goes here, and my positive 1 goes here. Now can you guys think of 2 numbers that multiply to give you a -30 and add to give you 1? If it has to be negative and this is positive, that means the bigger factor is going to be whatever sign this one is. So do you guys realize 6 times 5 is 30? Because it's negative, and this one's positive, I would make my 5 the positive and my 6 no, the other way around, I'm sorry. The 5 the negative and my 6 the positive. Okay, so -5 times 6 is -30. -5 plus 6 is 1. So if this is positive, the bigger of the factors is going to be positive. So then in one of these, I'm going to put -5x, and one I'm going to put 6x. Doesn't matter which one. For x squared, it's gonna be x times x. This is gonna be a minus 5 times x. This is gonna be a positive 6. And then if you check, that's right. So this is one of our factors. There's no sign here, so that's another. And then when I come down here, I'm gonna do x minus 5 times x plus 6 equals 0. Then what I can do is just do the opposite of each of these. So one answer's 5, one answer's negative 6. Okay. Now if I look at this one has 2 negatives, so we are gonna, I know you're probably like, I get it, but this one's a little bit different. So I'm gonna go x minus 5 times x minus 1 equals 8 times 4, which is 32. Okay? Then we're gonna do FOIL again. F is first. X times x is x squared. O is outside. X times a negative 1 is minus 1x. I is inside, which is negative 5x. And last is negative 5 times negative 1, which is a plus 5. And then this is 32 over here, so when I bring that over, it's going to be a minus 32 equals 0. So now I'm going to combine like terms. Negative 1x minus 5x is minus 6x. 5 minus 32 is minus 27. And that equals 0. Okay? Now, what I do, I'm going to come here. My x squared goes here. Negative 27 goes here and here. And then this is negative 6. Can you think of two numbers multiplied that give you a negative 27 and add to negative 6? So think of what two numbers give me 27. 1 times 27 or 3 times 9, right? So I know 3 and 9 could be a factor. Do you get it? This is negative, the bigger one is going to be negative. So it's the 9 that's going to be negative. And then you think, is 3 plus a negative 9 equal to negative 6? And it is. Okay? So now I'm going to come back. One of my factors is 3x, one is minus 9x. And then I have to figure out the multiplying. If that's x squared, it's x times x. And then what times x gives me 3x? That's 3. What times x gives me negative 9x? That's negative 9. So this is a plus, that's a minus. So 1 is x plus 3. 1 is x minus 9. And that equals 0. And then when I go to put my answers, x would be a negative 3 and x would be a positive 9. Okay, we have one more, and this one is, do you guys think you get it? Do you feel like you need another one? You're all good? Okay. Why don't we head down to, okay, first